Smee and Captain Hook are a gay couple, and you want me to prove you wrong. Welcome back to Peter Pan Lore and Peter Pan Facts with me, your Peter Pan hobbyist and enthusiast, using my Peter Pan hobbyist enthusiast brain and knowledge to bring you fun facts, lore and trivia, talk about the world of the Neverland, the story of Peter Pan, answer you guys' questions, and today we're going to be talking about Captain Hook and Mr. Smee. I'm forgetting something. Where were we? So, Captain Hook and Mr. Smee, you say they are a gay couple and you want me to use my knowledge of the lore and the source material to prove you wrong. Well, to this I say, no, shan't. And that is because there is absolutely nothing in the lore and the source material to suggest that they definitely could not be a couple. They absolutely could be. And more to the point, I quite like the idea that they are. First thing I'll talk about is an interesting fact about Mr. Smee. Now, he is one of the few survivors on the pirate side after the attack on the Jolly Roger at the very end of the story, and he then goes around the world making a precarious living by claiming he was the only man Captain Hook was afraid of. The closeness he will have had to tell stories like that gives me the idea that he could have discussed this with Captain Hook before he died. The man knew his death was coming. He was unable to think about anything else towards the end of his life. And so the idea that he and Mr. Smee would discuss what Mr. Smee would do after he was dead and how he would live without him. The idea that maybe Hook said, tell my story, tell stories about me and make a living from it. I quite like that as an idea. The discussions they could have had, the sweetness and tenderness there, yeah, that absolutely could have been real. Something else that's interesting to think about as well is how their relationship would have worked, and I think it would have been incredibly rocky, mostly because of Captain Hook. We know from his internal monologue that at moments when he is feeling the most downtrodden and jealous of Mr. Smee, he calls him pathetic, in his mind. I can imagine him trying never to say that out loud, but maybe Mr. Smee knew it. But he also knew the man intimately and well enough to know that he's not actually calling Smee pathetic, he is just jealous of who he is and almost calling it to himself. This all comes from Captain Hook's Eton education and how he feels that you have to always show good form, and he worries that worrying about good form means he actually has bad form, but Mr. Smee, who never seems to worry about it, has the ultimate good form without knowing you have it. And so that jealousy eats away at him. He would push Smee away, Smee would come back, etc., etc. I can imagine it going round and round. We see that Captain Hook shares with Mr. Smee a lot. One of the first moments we get of the two of them is where Captain Hook is sharing his inner thoughts and his worries to Smee, and Smee is trying to comfort him. I think this is a reoccurring thing, and it's definitely not the first time this has happened. So I think that they do know a lot about each other, particularly Smee about Captain Hook. And this is a closeness Hook does not have with anyone else. He treats his men like dogs. He even kills one of them at the beginning of the story, but not Mr. Smee. I don't think he ever could kill Smee. We also don't know how they met, and I think it's a really interesting story that someone could dive into. They could have met both serving under Blackbeard and then left together when Captain Hook became a captain and got his own crew. They could have met when Hook was hiring for his crew. Smee then becomes his bosun and is the most trusted person Captain Hook has, nay, the only trusty, confident Captain Hook has. So in answer to this question, no, I am not going to prove you wrong. In fact, if you look at the source material, I can only continue to prove you right. There are so many things you can draw from about Captain Hook's character that make him read in so many LGBT ways. He definitely could be a gay man. He could also be an asexual man. He definitely has a closeness and an intense relationship with Mr. Smee. They know and they trust each other, and all of this combined absolutely could lead us to believe they were or are or could be or have been any type of couple. Any other thoughts, theories, or questions? Chuck them in the comments down below.